All right, Shalom. I like to say Kal Halayim La Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Harakah Kodash Ma'amah. Double honors to the elder apostles, a great millstone, and my elder as well. Salutations to the Akim that are pushing the truth and sincerity and truth, and peace and blessings to the men, women, and children that believe in the name of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. I'm Khalak Sa'an Ban Yasharallah from the Lions in the Yasharallah camp, and I'm coming with a quick lesson dealing with the topic of systemic and systematic racism. Not necessarily just racism itself, but the whole um, meaning behind uh, the systemic and systematic, and how it relates to us today. And Lord willing, is edified and serve its purpose to the hopeful elect, the ones that truly believe in the name of Yahweh by Shem Yahweh Shai. And I hear these words being spoken about a lot. Sometimes people say systemic, sometimes people say systematic. And I was just curious as to what the difference is between them both and if there really is a difference. So after, talking about it with a couple of brothers, um, we realized that there is a difference. There's a slight difference. Um, so I just wanted to go into it a little bit. But how it just goes all into play of the system that is set up by Esau, right? And how the system is put into place. Okay? So the whole system is set up the way the Roman system was set up. All right, and matter of fact, let me get a scripture real quick. So that's what we're dealing with right now, and that's why it's good to study into the history, um, to get an understanding of things that were done in the past, especially dealing with Rome, to know what's going on with America today. And that's why that's why the scriptures are a history book in itself, because it gives us the things that went on in the past, and we take that and a little bit of secular history, just to validify the points in the Bible. We don't really need it. The ones that truly believe don't need it, but it's for the non-believers that we use this um, secular history to prove points in the Bible. Because the ones that truly believe in the name of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai just need the scriptures. That's it. All right. But this system is built upon Roman values. All right. So let me get Revelation chapter 13, verse 11. It says, "And I beheld another beast came up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon." And that's talking about America right there. All right, with their whole Democratic and Republican Party, and which they're trying to get everybody blindly, uh, uh, systematically, to get people to be involved in their systemic way of bringing forth a king. All right, so they're fooling people, and with their approach, thinking that their votes matter, voting into a system that's designed for Jake to fail. All right, it says, verse 11. It says, "I beheld, and another beast coming out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon." All right, and he exercises all. So they come in peace, right? With the whole democracy. That's their systematic way to perform the systemic setup. All right, so they come in the democracy, but they also systematically impose draconian measures, like the whole um the brother Nakar Karam did a video saying the gradualism of Esau. It's a weaponry. So that would be if I'm not mistaken. I'm gonna get into this article to try to break down both of them. If I'm not mistaken, the gradualism is the systematic way that they set up the systemic system that imposes its will, the system that imposes its will on the people, right? Keeping them impoverished. This devil doesn't even care that he wants Jake to be brought low so much and kept low so much. He doesn't care about his own people, as long as he gets his system and his agenda pushed into play. And it goes to show, just like the video that the elder made of social dilemma, and that's another systematic approach to conform people to the system. All right. So if the system doesn't accept you, people that are trying to be a part of this system, right? Do whatever they can to be accepted by the system. That's why you see women half naked now, just so they can get a bunch of likes, just to feel accepted, and it's all vanity. All right, this is the approach that Esau does, the trickery that Esau does. Like the scripture says, the serpent was the most cunning beast of the field, and that's what he uses, subtlety, to fool the simple. All right, it says, and he exercised, verse 12, and he exercises all the power of the first beast before him, and causes the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. All right, so worshiping meaning be a part of that system. All right, so that's what the whole agenda of Esau, the devil, is to do. All right, so I want to get into this article a little bit that explains the differences um, between the two and how they coincide and relate. All right, it says systematic versus systemic. There is a system to the difference. All right. It says the George Floyd protests have brought attention to the word systemic among many other powerful words that speak to his historic time, to this historic time, like never before. Many activists and public officials are calling to dismantle the systemic racism and policing and other social institutions that are disproportionately killing, oppressing black people. All right, so this is what's happening. All right, so the systemic racism is the system that is designed to institutionalize and social institutionalize um, Jake, conforming them to be a part of the system. All right, and causing them to operate according to the system. All right, so once you no longer operate according to the system, you become outside of the system, and you're no longer accepted by the world. All right, all right. So these calls and or our broader cultural conservation among them have compelled significant interest in the considerable confusion around the word systemic itself. Searches for the word systemic spiked 1,870%. I don't understand how that's possible. Well, I guess it can be. On dictionary.com in June 10th alone. Systemic is a difficult word, and problems like racism that are characterized as systemic can be difficult to grasp. Plus, systemic is extremely similar in both sound and sense to the word systematic. What is the difference between these two words? How can you tell them apart? And more important for our current moment, what is systemic racism? I always have a hard time saying that word, systemic. All right. Both systematic and systemic are adjectives based on the word system. First recorded in the early 1600s, system ultimately derived from the Greek word systema, a whole compound of several parts. To understand the difference between systematic and systemic, it helps to break down the word system. All right, so that's why, like the apostles always say, break words down, because a lot of these words have this thing called new speech, and they try to alter the meaning of the words to promote their agenda, uh, and kind of disguise what they're promoting. All right, it says that's because that's because systematic and systemic draw a slightly different sense of the word system in English. All right. It says, let's highlight several of the many senses of the word system in particular. The first sense is any formulated, regular, or special method or plan of a procedure that helps to keep the sense of system in mind when considering the word systematic. Here's an example of this sense of system. I have a system for cleaning my house that involves starting from the front and finishing at the back. All right, so they have a system to set up the new world order from the beginning to the end. Okay, this is how they're going to do it. They're going to start out with this and end up with this. All right. The second sense of the word system we want to call attention to is the an assemblage or combination of things or parts forming a complex or uterary whole for systemic. Okay, so basically, the systemic version of it, if I'm not mistaken, would be the whole things that are the conglomerate of things that are put together to make create a certain system or have a certain system operates. And right, so so reading it again, it says a second sense of system we want to call attention to is an assemblage or a combination of things or parts forming a complex or uterary whole. For systemic, it helps to keep this sense of system in mind. Here's an example of this sense of system. To learn to write in Japanese, you have to learn a writing system that uses three different sets of characters. All right. So understanding the different parts that make up this one whole system. All right. It says, what does systematic mean? Systematic is an adjective primarily meaning having, showing, or involving a system, method, or plan. A synonym for systematic is methodical. All right, what method are you using? What method are you using to bring forth this plan? All right, systematic draws on the first sense we have highlighted in the previous section as a system or as a plan. All right, what is the plan? All right, so if you do something in a systematic way or do something systematically, you have a method to your madness. All right, and Esau has a method to his madness. All right, his method is he feel like he can't, if he sets up the system, he cannot be brought down. That's the method that he's using. All right. Well, the method that he's using is gradualism. Let's just say that. All right. It says you have a plan in place, you have a strategy. You're not doing things randomly. You're organized and structured in some way, right? And the scripture says, "How are the things of Esau searched out?" Because guess what? Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai put it in the minds of them to develop this system. All right. It says, "How about an everyday example? How do you clean your house? Do you start by completing cleaning the kitchen and then go through each room one at a time? Or do you start by dusting every room first, then wiping them down one by one, then vacuuming and washing the floors? Or maybe you dust clean surfaces on Saturdays, then vacuum and mop on Sundays?" If you have some kind of organized plan that you follow, you can say you have a systematic approach to cleaning your house. All right, so now they have a systematic approach to keeping Jake oppressed. All right, so the approach is what's the systematic way, and the system itself and how it's implemented is systemic. All right, no, the approach and the method, all right, is the systematic way. We're going to leave it at that right now. All right. It says you are cleaning systematically, methodically, planfully, strategically. If you don't have a system, you are just doing about random and hap haphazardly, uh, haphazardly. All right. The first records of systematic go back to around 1670 via Latin. Systematic ultimately comes from the Greek systemikos, an adjective from the root word systema, source of system. All right, what is the source of the system? What is the method? All right, Now, what does systemic mean? Systemic is an adjective that means of or relating to a system. It's especially used to describe some phenomenon, an illness, a social problem that affects every part of the entire system. Some near synonyms are systemic as are structural, comprehensive, inherent, pervasive, ingrained, and extensive. All right. Besides a plan or method, a system, as we saw in our first section, can also mean a group of parts or things that come together to form a whole systemic draws on this sense of system. All right. Okay. So basically, like pervasive. All right, they're using a pervasive approach. All right. Or persuasive approach. Gradualism. All right. It says to help to know a little history and anatomy when it comes to the word systemic in biology, a system can refer to the cells and organs that work together to accomplish the same goal, such as the immune system. All right, so now the immune system, the right, okay. So those are the things that make up the cells and your different organs that fight against, things that enter in the body, build up the immune system. Those are the parts, all right? It says, or the entire organism, all right? It says, some of the earliest uses of systemic referred to diseases that affect more than one organ system, such as the circulatory system or the digestive system. Systemic especially refers to diseases that affect the whole body in medicine. All right, so systemic racism, it affects the whole body of Israel. But what is the cure for that? The cure for that is the word. All right, to heal the sickness of Israel. What does it say? Let me get that real quick. All right, this is Isaiah chapter 1, verse 5. It says, why should you be stricken anymore? All right. Ye will revolt more and more. The whole head is sick, the whole heart faint, from the sole to the foot, even unto the head. There is no soundness in it, but wounds and bruises and pure petrifying sores. They have not been closed, neither bound up, neither mollified with ointment. All right, so the systemic system of that's set up by Esau against Jake has made us sick. All right, and that's what put us in the congregation of the dead. All right, and how was it done? Through a systematic approach. They started from the head. You know, they started with things like, well, we're gonna start by put them in bondage. When we put them in bondage, we're gonna take the husband out of the home, and we're gonna demasculinize the husband in front of, like, okay, the Jim Crow letter, or no, Willie Lynch letter was his was the a systematic approach to implement the systemic um, system that was going to break down Jake and create a slave for 1,000 years or more. All right. All right, scoot further down. It says, systems have developed to refer to various non-living systems that are large and complex, writing systems, beliefs systems, or on the level of social institutions, systems of government, banking, and healthcare, to name a few. These systems involve various smaller parts, all right, organization and levels that form an eradicate whole. Think about the complexity of English alphabet, with letters resembling sounds and combining together to represent words. Then think about the complexity of the federal government, especially when talking about social institutions like government or healthcare system. Systemic is used when discussing something that affects the whole systemic problem, systemic change. For example, some banks are so central to the global economy that they are considered systemic banks by certain oversights of regularity agencies. A systemic bank, such as the Bank of America or Bank of China, is so important to the overall financial system that if it were to fail, it could cause systemic damage. Its failure could set off a collapse in the global economy. And you're witnessing that happen right now. So the systemic things that are being used to 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 keep this system going to impoverish and keep Jake in bondage is being literally tore down by Yahweh by Shem Yahweh Shai as we speak. All right.